Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Boom Rookies presented by ESPN. Coming at you live in the name pending studio, I am Matt Bungard and with me today, Nick Campton. Hello.
Hello.
State of Origin.
Oh, was that last night?
Yeah, did you miss it? You were busy reading books.
Yes, well see, the only blue I care about is the work of Pablo Picasso's Blue period.
Of course.
It really speaks to me.
Bit of blue poles by Jackson Pollock erasure, but
yeah,
we'll allow that.
Yeah, you know, I don't concern myself with this sports ball
yes, of course.
nonsense.
Why would you?
Why indeed?
Yes, so while the temptation to pivot into a full-time art podcast is tantalising, we will unfortunately have to pick up the pieces from New South Wales 10, Queensland 38. There's a million things to talk about, but one stands well above the rest, and that is, of course, the send-off of Joseph Suaali'i in the 7th minute of the first half for a high shoulder to the head of Reece Walsh. There's been a lot of opinions from a lot of people ever since, and we're going to have to talk about it. So, first of all, where do you stand on it?
Oh, it's a very clear send-off.
It's
100% a send-off. Like that, it's actually quite surprised me that there's been any discourse whatsoever about whether it's a send-off or not, and there's all this thing about should Origin be officiated differently, and you know, do we want spoil the game and all that sort of deal. It's like, it really is textbook. It's a shoulder to the head with forceful contact. In the modern game, that's a send-off, and the second it sort of happened, you know, and play sort of shoots downfield, because we were both out there last night, and I sort of kept looking at Walsh, and you see he had one of those really sort of scary reactions to a concussion where he really stiffens up and starts twitching around, and it was like, well, yeah, like, Suaali'i's gone. It's the only choice Ash Klein could have made. It would have been a horrible mistake if Suaali'i stay on the field, and I think the tackle itself was a horrible mistake. I don't think he's a dirty player or anything like that. It's just a thing that went wrong, but he had to go. There was no other choice.
Yeah, so I think it was telling that immediately when it happened, it was Carrigan, Ben Hunt, and was it Rube Cotter as well?
I think it was Jaden Sewer.
Jaden Sewer as well, who didn't join the play after the line break that had happened. They stayed behind to look after Walsh. I think Ben Hunt rolled him onto his back, actually. And yeah, that to me was telling that immediately the players knew how bad it was. And once I saw it, yeah, I agree with you. Clear send-off. And also, people were talking about, oh, Walsh slipped. What's the taller man supposed to do? All this stuff. I watched it back a few times, and the angle of Suaali'i's approach doesn't really change from when Walsh is coming towards him to when he slips, in inverted commas. I don't think Walsh's height actually changes all that much. I think he's already coming at sort of a reduced height, and Suaali'i doesn't really take any opportunity to make an adjustment at any point. He actually looks away. And I agree with you. I think there was a clear game plan to put some shots on Reece Walsh. I think that was evident from the first kick of the night.
Yeah, where Liam Martin sort of really raised him up.
And he's fine.
You have, like, I'm not saying that you have to hit Reece Walsh in the face. Like, no one's here saying that. But if you don't want Reece Walsh to totally skin you alive, you have to get up in his face and you have to put pressure on him, right? So, I agree with you. That was very clearly part of the Blues game plan. Not to take his head off. I'm not saying that.
No,
for a
but
second.
just to leave a couple on him.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's where this came from. Suaali'i's like, I've got to get him, and I've got to get him hard. And I think I'm with you. I don't think he really lowers his body height at all. That's why we use language like reckless and careless with these sorts of tackles. And that to me is what it was. Yeah. You know. So.
Yeah, and so the prevailing sort of noise of dissension since then has been about how it ruined the spectacle of the game, and how it's Origin and it's got to be different, all this stuff. And whilst I agree with that to an extent, and I think there are fewer penalties called in Origin by and large, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would guess that is true. When it's something as bad as this, there is no excuse, and there's really nothing else you can do. And on top of that, I understand that people are filthy that the game was ruined. I know a lot of people paid a lot of money, drove for hours from all around the state to come to that game last night. I understand all that, and it's unfortunate for other people. It's unfortunate for us. We were there. We were looking forward to a great game, and I think the first few minutes, it was shaping up to be a really good game.
You could feel the air go out of the building.
Yeah, it was, because
once he got sent.
Yeah, and I understand all of that, but just because it's going to ruin the spectacle doesn't mean that you don't punish it. You have to punish these things with this strength. And there's a lot of people talking about how, we should just have ejections, but they can replace him, or we should have 20-minute send-offs, all this stuff. I just think that that's a complete nonsense. I feel like that's just going to lead to more guys getting headhunted if the repercussions are lower. Like, there's nothing stopping, let's say Brisbane gets to the grand final again. I won't throw any hypothetical opponent out there for the purposes of this hypothetical, but let's just say whatever
Let's say
team
the Hunter Mariners have returned.
Sure, okay, yeah.
For one last night.
Yeah, and they trot out there like they tell their 6th or 7th best forward to do exactly what Suaali'i did last night.
Yeah.
He gets replaced or a 20-minute send-off, and Reece Walsh is rubbed out of the game as he was last night. I'm not suggesting that that's something that teams would go out of their way to do, but I do think that teams would sort of push the envelope a lot more with how they treat star players.
Of course they would. You're telling me that there wouldn't be a coach who would be desperate enough to win to do that? You're telling me there wouldn't be players that would be desperate enough to win to do something like that? You know, like clubs and teams and players have cheated in the past, and this would happen again, you know? And like, it did ruin the spectacle of the match, but that shouldn't come into the referee's thinking. It should be either this is a send-off or it isn't. Because you're right, you have to punish these things. You have to come down hard. This is rugby league's showpiece event, and they have to show that this sort of play isn't acceptable and can't be tolerated or excused, you know?
And the other part of it is that with you mentioned the showpiece event, with everybody watching, with all the discussions around concussions and head injuries now, like the sport would just look ridiculous if they didn't punish.
Well, you have to take this stuff seriously, and I think the NRL has taken it really seriously ever since they introduced HIAs about 10 or so years ago now. And when something like I really can't believe that there's a debate even, you know. And I think the people that are saying that he should have stayed on the field or it has to be different because it's Origin, like that's very, very out of touch. Like I love Origin. Part of what I love about it is the brutality and some of the violence. Like that's part of what I
love some of Liam Martin's work last.
Yeah, that's kind of what I love about it.
Yeah,
but there are limits.
Of course,
you know, like there are limits and there are rules and there are places where players can't go. You know.
What did you make? So Billy Slater was quite mum with his comments afterwards about the incident. Do you think that he kind of agrees with what we just said about the targeting stuff, and he just didn't want to say it?
I think so. Like the spray that Nate Miles gave
Suaali'i
when he came off the field, I think that says a lot more than Slater's silence did. I think Queensland think that the Blues were trying to go after Walsh in a way that was outside the sort of normal rules of engagement. I don't think that's right, but I can see why Queensland would feel that way because this was such a dramatic, like just a dramatic escalation in sort of the I don't want to use the word violence again, but just a dramatic escalation in what was going on out there. You know, emotions are running high, tempers are running high. Like it's scary to see that when a guy gets hit like that and you see him.
When you see his teammates not join an attack to stay next to him while they've made a line break in a state of origin game, you know it's serious. Like you know that's as serious as it gets. And I'm glad he's okay, and because it could have been a lot worse. But yeah, I just think that there's no argument that that's a send off.
Had to be.
And I'm shocked that there's been so much discontent about it. I really am. Like I thought we'd move beyond this a little bit. I know that send-offs are rare in Origin. There's only been like one proper send-off ever, and that's Craig Greenhill back in 1996, which is actually a worse tackle than Suaali'i's. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. It's very bad. But so of the 6 send-offs we've had in Origin, that was one. And then the other 4 are Gordy calling the ref a cheat, which was in the last minute of the game. Trent Waterhouse after the Brett White, Steve Price stuff, which was in the last minute of the game.
But that's so funny because Trent Waterhouse gets sent off because they think he's knocked out Steve Price. When it's actually Brett White who's come in with like the Mike Tyson overhand. And absolutely
but even then, 79th minute of the game. And then the other 2 are Luai and Walsh last year, also in the last minute of the game. So we've had one actual proper, in the context of the game, send-off ever.
Only one fair dinkum send-off.
Only one fair dinkum send-off ever, and that was in 1996. So it's been a long time.
Well, this is the first time there was a send-off in the first half of an Origin game.
Yeah, because that Greenhill tackle was in the 67th minute. I think.
And the game was already pretty much gone. So let's talk about like the impact that the send-off had on play itself. It kind of, for me, it kind of turned this into maybe the strangest Origin ever because I thought the Blues responded pretty well in the immediate aftermath. And that can happen with a send-off sometimes. Like the team that's had someone dismissed gets super aggrieved and super passionate and like sort of run on adrenaline a little bit. But that always wears off. You can't play on that forever, you know? And then once Queensland sort of got their bearings and got their wits about them and realised that the Blues didn't make an adjustment to cover for Suaali'i. They kind of just left Nico Hines and Liam Martin out there. And then I think Queensland sort of sized them up and like, okay, here we go.
My primary thought for the 25 or so minutes before they switched Crichton to the other side of the field was, thank God Dave Fafita's not playing.
Can you imagine? Because Sua was out there looking like Fafita for a couple of minutes.
Yeah,
there.
Sua played great, by the way.
Oh, like
and I love
a lot of the Queenslanders.
But my God, just imagine Fafita just feasting on that carcass of a right-hand defensive side for New South Wales.
Oh.
And I feel bad for Nico Hines in that regard. I don't think his kicking game was very good. I don't think he had a good game at all. But I do feel bad for him with the defensive stuff because, like, really, what's he meant to do?
Look, I can appreciate that Hines is defending in an unfamiliar position again, but I thought there were a couple of times where he just had to work harder to get in front of people, even if he's going to get trucked. You know, like for example, for the second Hamiso Tabawai fit-out try, where Cobbo gets on the outside of Hines because Hines can't really get in front of him, and then Cobbo goes over the top of Lomax pretty much, and then throws a great little offload to Taolangi.
Bulldozed Zach Lomax.
He did. But if you get bulldozed, I can always accept it because it's Selwyn Cobbo, dude. He's going to bulldoze a lot of people, and he was exceptional when he came on at left centre to the point where it was like, wow, imagine if this guy was played from the start. But yeah, so the Blues kind of lost their way a little bit down that edge, but I don't blame the players entirely because I think there were two coaching adjustments that had to be made, one before the game and one after the incident, and neither of them happened quickly enough. We talked a lot about how the Blues didn't have any cover on the bench, which was, if you just look at the recent patterns of Origin, like 2 of the games last year, the Blues lost a centre in a key moment, right, and didn't have the coverage for it, really, and ended up costing them really, really badly. So even if you want everything to go to plan with the way you've selected your team, like Origin is a strange place. There's a lot of rainy days, a lot of weird shit happens, and you have to be prepared for it, you know? So if Matt Burton's on the bench, like, I'm not saying that saves the game or anything like that, but it might have stemmed the bleeding a little bit more and kept the Blues in it a little bit longer. And then once it did happen, the Blues didn't make an adjustment at all for 27 minutes, which is an extraordinarily long time. And the Maroons were just killing them down that edge. And there were things they could do, none of them ideal, but they could have either do what they ended up doing, which is moving Stephen Crichton over to that side and having Angus Crichton defend at left centre, or they could have moved Angus Crichton over to centre on that side, brought on either Olakau'atu or Hudson Young and parked him up on that left edge, and then taken off a middle. Because the easiest, if you're going to have 12, the easiest place to be short is in the middle of the field. It's still incredibly hard, but in terms of like the structure of your defense, that's the easiest person to carry on without. And like 27 minutes is just a really, really long time without making either of those moves.
Yeah, it was baffling to us that no lessons were learned from last year when it comes to losing a back and not having any cover. Matt Burton would have been a great person to have on the bench for this game. We both thought that there was a chance they'd add him to the bench in a late shuffle. Didn't happen. But then you look at the performances of some of the forwards, and again, it's not their fault, but like the minutes, they had 4 forwards play less than 30 minutes. And you just think, well, if that's happening, if you've got Hudson Young, Spencer Leniu, Hamoli Olakau'atu, and your captain, Jake Trbojevic, all playing less than half an hour, and I know Leniu went off for HIA, but those other 3 guys didn't, all 4 of those guys playing less than half an hour, you think, well, probably enough minutes there that could be made up with one of them not being there and having a utility instead. And I don't think it cost them the game. I think they lose regardless, but I agree with you. I think that if that happens in the moment with Suaali'i getting sent off, if you can bring Burton on straight away, it does probably stem the bleeding a little bit.
And like, given that New South Wales, I thought they showed a lot of spirit to stay in the game for as long as they did.
Yes.
I didn't think it was until the second Ben Hunt try, that was the one that really took it out of their reach, and then Queensland sort of poured on a few more tries late. So who knows what might have happened?
Yeah,
but that was the thing. Like winning an Origin game with 12 men for 75 minutes is close to insurmountable, and then a couple of the things the Blues did ended up making it a little like close to impossible. Yes. I thought. Yeah,
and so there was. When Tedesco scored, there was a bit of noise about the ground. So you were right that when the send-off happened, the mood went out of the place immediately, and it's a shame.
I could feel the blood go out of my face.
It was such a shame because I was remarking to people next to me that I don't love this stadium when I come here for like a round 15 game for the Rabbitohs, and there's 12,000 people here, and it sucks.
12,000.
That's right. That's generous. Isn't it? But, I don't love it when it's Origin or when the Matildas are playing or something like that. It is awesome. It's still great when there's proper atmosphere and there's a bit of noise and the ground is mostly full. But then, after the send-off, it kind of felt like there was 12,000 people there and South were playing the Titans again. But But there was two times. Once when Tedesco Hood, and then again when Lomax scores, and then the set after that, Val Holmes makes that error, and the Blues are attacking again, where there was again just a bit of noise about the place. But that was about it.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. In the middle third of that game, they did very well to just keep it into a holding pattern and almost get back into a position where they could have, sort of snuck something out of this game almost when Holmes drops that ball and they were attacking the line. It broke down. I think it was Olakau'atu who dropped the ball in the next set. But then, Hunt gets his second try. They get a couple more late on, and that blows it out a little bit. But I think by and large, given what happened after 5 minutes, they have to be, like, you can't take too much out of it in terms of what you want to do selection-wise. Like, there's no... I don't think Nico Hines played well, and I think his position will be up for debate, especially with Mitch Moses playing so well for Parramatta last week and coming back from his injuries. But beyond that, and Suaali'i obviously not being there because he's going to be suspended, it's interesting to see what other changes they will make. I feel like they have to learn the lessons of the outside back stuff now. Like, if last year wasn't a clear enough indicator that you need to carry someone that can cover a few positions on the bench, then last night should be. And if it's not, then, I don't know what we're doing anymore.
I never know what we're doing, to be honest with you. Look, kind of plays into what I said before. It's hard to know how much to take away from this game from either side because I agree, Billy Slater said after the game he thought Queensland were pretty below their best, and I kind of agree with him. And the send-off made things strange for them as well as it made things strange for New South Wales. Like, Queensland, I felt like, apart from that sort of 10-minute period where they got the 2 Tabuai fit-out tries, they kind of reminded me a little bit of what the Reece Welsh Broncos can be sometimes, where it's clear that there's points out there and they want to just score so quickly all over the park that they kind of lose their way a little bit, So, and it can be like that when you're attacking against Swell. It can feel like there's points everywhere all the time. And we got to get them. And you sort of maybe lose a little bit of your composure or your execution. That's where I think Daly Cherry Evans was so impressive. I thought he really controlled the key moments of the match really, really nicely. And not in like we think about game managing, we think about controlling attack, and we think it's a guy touching the ball 4 times a set or whatever. But Cherry Evans is really mastered the art of having his fingerprints all over a game without touching it that much. You know what I mean? Like just key moments, good decisions at the right time go a long, long way. And the biggest example of that is when Nico Hines goes for the 40-20. It's a really good kick. Xavier Coates just manages to save it. They didn't show a replay at the time. I think he might have stepped on the line.
We watched it back. Like, the guy next to me had the game up on his laptop as well. We watched it back. It's hard to say without them going into super slow motion. Like, his foot basically almost hits the sideline as he throws the pass. Like, it's really close.
So it's super close. Anyway, regardless, it's a great play from Coates to save it. And then halfway through, like 3 tackles later, Cherry Evans goes for the exact same thing, but he nails it. Yes. And that was kind of the difference. That was kind of the difference. Or even going right back to before the send-off with the Ben Hunt try. That's the last tackle, and Cherry Evans is ducking down a blindside, and he just gets it right. Or on the intercept where he reads the play beautifully, and then
that kick was
drops the nice little kick for Coates. Like, it's just tiny little pieces of composure at key times. I thought Cherry Evans did that really well. I thought Ben Hunt did that really well as well.
They're both great.
Like, I thought for his second try, Hunt used the space around him really well. Like, Martin and Tedesco both got good shots at him. Probably should have taken him down, but it was still really smart stuff from Hunt. So that was a big difference, I think. Queensland were pretty frantic throughout, but their experienced guys really rose to the fore when it counted, and that went a long way.
Yeah, Cherry Evans was their best player for me, along with probably Cobbo, and I think Carrigan was very strong too.
Yeah, I thought Cotter and Collins were both good
not
again.
Bad, really, did they? But yeah, Cherry Evans again, fantastic. The way his Origin career has transformed to, like, being maligned by a lot of Maroons fans early on in his career.
He was hated,
despised.
Yeah, he really was. He really was.
Now,
he was out of the team for what? 4 years. And I remember they brought him back for Game 3 2018, and the stakes were incredibly high. It was a dead rubber, but if they'd lost, it was up at Suncorp, and if they'd lost that game and gotten swept, then his Origin career, for all intents and purposes, would have been over. If they won that game, he was man of the match in that one as well. I think this is his 3rd man of the match award.
Yeah.
But he was man of the match, and he became captain for Game 119, and then everything else since then has kind of turned him. It's completely recast and rechanged his legacy as an Origin player, and I think as a rugby league player. I think there was a long, long time when no one liked Cherry Evans. Like, people couldn't stand him. But now he's become a beloved figure, and he wants to keep playing He's 35. He wants to keep playing. He says he wants to play till he's 40 or 40 plus. Like, our sons will be sitting here in the nickname pending studio junior.
Still pending in 2045.
Yeah. And Cherry Evans will still be out there doing it.
Mate, as long as Cherry Evans / Jordan Rapana are still playing, someone's older than me in the NRL. So I want them to play forever. So we talked a little bit about New South Wales and what changes they can make. Queensland aren't going to make any changes, but what did you like from them? Like, we talked about how Billy said they didn't think that they were at their best, but what did you like? I loved how quickly they identified those weaknesses down the left-hand side and just kept targeting them. And I love their physicality. What else did you like from them?
Oh, well, I love their speed.
Yeah.
I love their strike. And this is coming up on this is almost 2 full series now, where there have been periods of the game where New South Wales have been right on top, but Queensland have been the one scoring points, because Queensland can do it from anywhere on the field at any time. Here's a great stat for you. The Blues had 34 tackles inside Queensland's 20. Queensland had 14 tackles inside the Blues' 20. Yeah. 14 tackles, and they scored 38 points.
Yeah, that's a lot.
You know, like, they just have so much strike and so much creativity, and they seem like such a settled team.
Yeah.
Like, they seem like a team that's really figured out exactly what their philosophy is in attack, exactly how they want to do things. And with that comes a confidence that we can be camped down our own end for 20 minutes, and it's okay. Or we can go... They end up going a long time without points. I think Tabuai Fidau's second try is in the 19th
Yeah, there's a 43-minute gap.
And then they don't score again till the 66th minute. And just having that confidence, like, no, we'll get a chance. We'll get a chance, and we know how to take our chances. And that's a big part of what Origin's about, you know, being patient enough to wait for your chance, having the knowledge of knowing when the chance comes, and then having the chutzpah to get it done when it matters, you know?
The first Hunt try is the only try that happens from a play the ball inside New South Wales 20, right? Yeah. The rest of them are all from beyond halfway. I think,
and that's the thing. Like, we looked at the team they had and we were like, oh, it's probably not as strong on yardage, but
we did say speed kills.
Speed does kill, man, and it's not. I don't know how New South Wales can really compete with it, because I was sort of thinking about other right side backs they could pick last night, and most of them fit the profile of the blokes who were already in the team. So big guys, strong guys, great yardage guys, but not guys that have that like greased lightning. You know what I mean? Like, and you could sort of see that last night when the Blues were getting desperate and really chasing points. Imagine if they'd had someone with like Josh Adokar type speed out there. You know, at least there's that threat that you can score from deep. Then you know, so that's what really appeals to me about this Queensland team. That speed and incision and the bravery they have to use it.
Wouldn't mind seeing Fox and the big man in for game 2.
Well, Fox's hamstring exploded last week, remember? He's out for 8 to 10 weeks.
8 weeks. I didn't realize it was that long. Damn. But Latrell, though, what do you think?
I think he's in. I think he'll play.
Yeah.
Let's get the meat axe out, dude. Let's take it to this Blues side.
All of them, like Homer Simpson reading out the cuts.
Well, no. I mean, like, let's just talk about some of the things they didn't do as well last night.
So
you're talking about Hines. I thought he was quite poor.
Tough night.
Playing really sideways, not going direct. For a guy who always seemed so sure of himself at club level, I thought he looked a little bit overawed. And I know we can talk about the send off, and that was making things strange, and it did make things strange. But I thought Jerome Luai was at least able to make an attacking impact here and there, because he was, not all the time, but when he would straighten up and use his footwork, things would start happening. And Hines had that nice kick for Lomax. And I wonder if at this level of the game, he's better suited to being a playmaking 5'8" than an organising halfback.
Yeah.
Because the Blues needed someone to sort of really give them that direction. And I know Hines is only in his second game, but he's the halfback and he's a player of tremendous acclaim and accomplishment. And I thought they needed more from him and they didn't quite get it.
Yeah, it's a shame. I agree. I think you can throw a bit of the defensive stuff aside, as we touched on earlier, but the organisational stuff and the kicking game just weren't there. I think so Queensland's first points come from that grubber that he gets wrong at the other end of the field. They get a 7-tackle set, and that's what gives them the field position to get up the other end and score. And then, that Lomax kick aside, I didn't think his kicking game was very good. And it's a shame. I'm a really big fan of Nico Hines. I think he's a good dude, and I was really hoping that he would perform well at this level. He'll certainly get more chances. Don't know if it'll be this year, or don't know if it'll be in the 7. Maybe it'll be in the 6, as you just touched on, going forward. But yeah, they were crying out for some organisation last night with playing a man down for basically the whole match, and they didn't really get it. And that is unfortunate, but it's just what happened. And I think with Mitch Moses playing as well as he did last week, if he has a good game, I don't know how many games. They might have 1 or 2 more games before. Or
They'll have 2.
They'll have 2. Okay.
Yeah.
So if he plays well,
that Monday one is going to be a high profile one. It's the only game on that day. They're playing Canterbury.
Yeah, that's right.
I think all Canterbury's. Well, I think it's just Critter. Critter will probably back up. So it's an old rivalry game. Para, little bit of a bounce back. Canterbury's going quite well. Like, honestly, a good game there could be enough to get Moses in. And I don't know what the Blues will do in regards to either keeping Luai or Hines. I think they'll keep one of them. But I'd be surprised if both of them make it to Melbourne.
Speaking of possible selections, I think Latrell will be in the frame. But, you never know with this stuff. What about Jacob Carraz?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because I thought Stephen Crichton was really good in a number of different roles. I thought Lomax was quite strong as well, and To'o was really good with his yardage too.
I'm saying if they don't pick Latrell,
I think they're picking Latrell. I think nothing short of an assassination will keep Latrell Mitchell out of this team for game 2.
I'm rooting for him.
What, for Latrell Mitchell's untimely assassination?
No, for him to succeed, as he always does at Origin level. He's the best.
I think they're definitely going to pick him. The Jake Trbojevic stuff is just bizarre to me.
Look, nice guy. You can't have your captain off the field for 2/3 of an Origin game. You just can't.
There's a listener of the show, Scoreless, who put up a tweet last night.
Oh, this isn't good.
Comparing Jake Trebojevic's stat line from last night to Dynamis Louis' stat line from his only Origin in game 2 of the 2020 series. I think I looked at it for an hour.
Dynamis had slightly fewer minutes and slightly more meters.
I could not look away from it, man.
Yeah.
I really couldn't. And this was my fear with Trbojevic. Like, I don't doubt his status in terms of his passion for the jersey or his status as a leader in the group or anything like that. All those qualities that have led to him to being named captain, I totally understand that they're all there. But I just don't know if, as a player, he can cut it at that level anymore. Like, if you can't run the ball in Origin, you're always going to struggle. And he just can't have an impact in that way anymore, and like especially in the front row, you need like some bone chewers up there, man. And I just don't know if he can sort of provide the muscle that position needs.
And again, with the way, like, because they had so many forwards on the bench, if there's a world where Jake Trebojevic's ability to play massive minutes is really valuable to you, and that can work when you're Manly and you've got sort of guys that a couple of other forwards there that give you like really good sort of short bursts, and Jake's always on the field making tackles, like sort of sucking up all that hard work, all that stuff. But they didn't need that last night, and this was our concern from the start. Was if you're going to pick a 4-forward bench, all of Jake Trebojevic's best attributes are kind of nullified a little bit. Like, there's no reason to have an 80-minute workhorse guy who's not a great sort of tackle breaker, doesn't really bend the line, doesn't offload very much. There's not a reason to have a guy like that if you're going to have 4 forwards on the bench to make impacts. It doesn't really fit the description of what you're trying to do. So that's why we found that selection bizarre in the first place. And then in a game like last night, if you have 12 players for the whole game and you do have a back on the bench and you bring him on to play centre and your forwards do need to play more minutes, then that's a role that suits Jake Trbojevic, and that's what he does at club level.
Yeah.
But that's not what he did last night.
The Blues vice-captain last night captained the team for longer than Jake did.
Yes.
Like, I don't know. And the thing, like, their best period of the game was probably that 20 minutes after half time. Again, when the skipper's not out there, you know, and you can't, this isn't cricket, man. We're not having specialist captains or anything like that.
Well,
so I found all that.
And then bringing him back on with 3 minutes left in the game was super weird. They announced it over the PA system as well, like, coming back on, the captain. It's like, boys, read the room.
Well, but it might have been worse if he doesn't go back on, if he just plays that opening 25 and then he never comes back.
You think getting the 4 minutes at the end is actually better?
I don't know. I can't put my finger on which one would be worse.
Listeners, get in touch. But yeah, it's a strange one, mate, because I said, if you're going to pick Jake, a great choice for captain because everyone loves him. He loves the state. He's passionate, all that stuff. But I said that thinking that he would play far longer than he did. And that's what gets me, is that I just don't think that you can have, like, you captain, you know, other teams, like Carrigan's like that for 80 minutes for the Broncos. Sometimes he goes off for a little bit. That's fine. But like, Kemaro goes off for Souths. That's fine. But they don't go off for 2/3 of the game.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
It's a long time to be without your leader.
So he goes off in the 25th minute and comes back on in the 76th or 77th minute.
Such a long time to be off.
It's ridiculous.
That's an hour. It's an hour of gameplay almost.
And you're right, because especially in a game like last night where your backs are against the wall from minute 6 until the end. And I feel bad for him because it's not a good spot for him to be in either. Like it sucks that we're talking about this and that he was used in that way. But at the same time, I just don't get the makeup of this team. I don't get the bench makeup. I don't understand. Like your man Hudson Young was on the field for about 2 seconds as well. He touched the ball maybe once or twice. Like
I will say, when he put that kick in and it looked like it was going 40 metres dead, I was like, this is hitting the post.
Yeah.
100% this is hitting the post.
Yeah.
Like
your Raiders magic doesn't work here, Hudson. This isn't club.
Where were the chasers? Where was Jordan Ruff?
I was going to say, someone did say that. They're like, if there's another Raider out there for the Blues, that's a try. And I was like, yeah, probably. But yeah, so I think that Young could be a casualty for game 2.
Yeah,
I think he did anything wrong. He just didn't play.
Yeah, I think
they've worked out that they don't need this many forwards.
So. I think that's what'll happen. I thought Spencer Leniu was really good off the bench. Like there were some bright spots for the Blues. Like Leniu was one of them. I thought
Robson was really good.
The pick of the depth charts. I thought Robson really played well defensively and showed a whole lot of ticker to be out there.
That try saver was fantastic.
It was awesome. And I know Liam Martin missed a couple of tackles, and a lot of people were sort of saying, he missed some tackles and he didn't run it that much. I think being there, you could sense how important Liam Martin was to...
I will say, the only time, like we talk about how quiet the stadium got, the only times there was a bit of noise was when Liam Martin was rushing out of line to kill people.
Yeah,
that was it.
Like he was great on
lifting the crowd with those.
He was great on his kick chase. That shot on Hopgood was awesome. Really, really good. And in a circumstance like this, where your backs are so far up against the wall and you sort of need all the inspiration you can get. I thought Martin tried really, really hard to provide.
I thought he was as well as best.
Yeah, and maybe that doesn't translate as well on TV. Maybe it's something that you have to be at the ground to sort of really experience. But I think everyone who was at the game last night will tell you how important Martin was for that side. What do you think they do with James Tedesco?
I think he's gone.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I thought he started well. I thought he was pretty poor in the second half. But he was out of position for the 40-20 and he got dusted by Hunt for that try.
He did. I think there was enough there that if you wanted to keep him, you could justify it. But there's also enough if you wanted to drop him, you could justify that.
He was really good. He made a really good tackle. I think it was the break that.
It was the break off the Suaali'i
nailed
hit. Yeah,
but he made a really
down
Hammer should have passed that ball. He had Dearden screaming up the support, tried to go around Teddy. Teddy made a really good tackle. It was all for naught because came back for a penalty anyway.
Yeah.
But pretty bad miss on Hunt, and I do think the 40-20 was probably on him. But I think Edwards will get the chance now.
I think he will too. I don't know if that'll fix any of the problems that the Blues have had. And I do think Tedesco was strong with his yardage and strong with his carries. And then I thought the whole spine sort of struggled to link together in attack a fair bit. And like I said, I thought the errors that Tedesco did make were quite visible ones. So the tip-on that went over the sideline, for example. But I think it's like if you wanted to keep him, you can justify it. If you wanted to drop him, you can do that too.
I think so too. So I think...
I don't know what they'll do.
I think Edwards is... I'm close to certain.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it. We both think Edwards is going to come in for Teddy.
I think the wingers coming in for...
Yeah, I think the wingers will stay the same. Yep. I think Latrell will come in
for
Suaali'i.
Brighton stays, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
I think it'll be Luai and Moses.
I think it'll be Hines and Moses.
Wow.
I think they'll stick with Hines. Yeah.
That will because I think Luai had one of his better games for New South Wales last night. I thought he was decent.
I thought he tried really hard. Yeah. And when the spine doesn't have that cohesion, and it's almost like a lot of them are playing on their own, I thought he really tried to get them going.
I think those like the halfback change will be interesting. I think the backline changes are like almost fait accompli. I think we're going to get those for sure. The forwards is where I'm most interested.
I think the front row stays the same.
Yeah. Okay.
The only change I could see them dropping McInnes and putting Trebojevic back to lock and bringing in maybe a Barnett or something like that. They'll keep Liam Martin and Angus Crichton. I thought Angus Crichton had a really good game.
Very solid.
And another one who just had to do a lot of different roles and did them all quite well.
Played good. I think that we will 100% see a forward drop off. Like, there's no way they do this again, right?
Yeah, and I think it'll be Hudson Young too. I think he'll drop off and Burton will come in.
Burton in for Young, Mitchell in for Suaali'i, Edwards in for Tedesco, Moses in for either Luai or Hines, and then a reshuffle of the middles.
I could see McInnes getting dropped too. I didn't think he was poor last night or anything.
No, but
I think after what happened in this, they're gonna want to get to more minutes into Trbojevic for game 2. If that's the way to go.
If Jake Trbojevic is going to be in your team, he has to play more than 29 minutes.
So I could see them moving him to lock.
And I think Barnett
is
the kind of. I think he's the kind of player. His mentality and his aggression will really suit this level as well. So that might be something they do.
What if he's got too much aggression for this level?
I mean, we've seen that before.
Yeah. Queensland. I think Queensland will go in unchanged. They won't change anything. It's
well, if Reece Walsh. So I don't exactly know. I've had conflicting sources from people about whether he can play.
Were they requesting anonymity?
Yes.
To speak freely?
Of course.
Yeah.
So that's some conflicting reports on whether Walsh can play against Souths next week because it's 10 days. It's within the 11-day thing because it's next Friday, right?
Yeah.
So it's 9 days after Origin. Someone told me he can because he passed the HIA. Someone else said he can't because he was a Category 1 when he got knocked out. So I don't actually know what the answer is.
Well, the important thing to remember is
special dispensation
you can pass your HIA and still not come back on the field. The HIA is a cognitive test.
Yes.
Category 1 is based on the symptoms at the moment.
And that means you're not coming back.
Means you're not coming back. You can get exemptions, and people have gotten them in the past. Yes. But I guess
Sam Walker got one last year, right?
A couple of guys got it. So I guess we won't know. But if he's out...
But if he doesn't... But my point was, if he doesn't play in that Souths game, his next game will be Origin 2.
Yeah, I think they'll pick him.
And they'll pick him anyway, of course. But that's just interesting.
That's the whole point. Like, they've got Cobbo there now. And they've got Tabuai Fidau, who was really, really good. Scored the hat-trick. Had that great save on Spencer Leniu as well.
That was awesome.
It was really good stuff. So, losing Walsh obviously would be a big blow, but they're putting someone back there who's really, really good. And Cobbo, I think, is of that 2 to 5. Cobbo's the best. He's the best player.
He's so
of those of all those guys. So
yeah, I saw a couple of Queensland fans sort of wanting Cobbo in to start for Val for game 2, and I think. I mean, Val's keeping his spot.
That's the thing. I can get why you would want that because Cobbo was so good, but it won't happen. They'll go in unchanged. Awesome. Yeah,
I love him, man. He's sick.
Oh, he was awesome. He was fantastic.
That fend, Jesus.
I know.
Forget about it.
Do you think you can fend me in the face until I'm dead and I don't have to think about this game anymore?
Come on, buddy. It's your fault for believing.
No, see, I can't live without passion.
That's true. You know? I did love that people were like on our socials, oh, nice prediction. It's like, oh yeah, because you predicted a send-off in the 5th minute that would ruin the game.
Can't believe we didn't see that one coming.
That's our fault.
Yeah.
Jeez. It's a shame. I do think the game was sort of building nicely, but again, as we said at the very top of this segment, clear send-off. Clear send-off.
Had to be.
And that will... I think Jamie Buhrer played 8.5 minutes, so that's the shortest. That will be, of people that got on the field, I think that'll be the shortest Origin career.
I think he'll play again.
You reckon?
Yeah, I do.
In game 3 this year?
Maybe not game 3 this year.
I'm assuming when he comes back from Union.
I think he'll play Origin again one day.
I agree with that. But for now, for the first act of his rugby league career, which will end at the end of the season, shortest career, I think. Jamie Buhrer off the hot
seat. A lot of time left though. And guys have come back from...
Oh yeah. Well, Justin Hodges had the...
That's the best example.
That's the best example.
Well, that's as bad a debut as this one was. And Hodges came back from that and ended up becoming...
Cherry Evans is great. We just talked about him for how much he was disliked
Noddy came back from the intercept. Yeah. You can come back from this stuff.
Yeah, sometimes you can't. Love you, Nathan. All right, you're heading up the road as soon as we get out of here to go to the other Origin match this week at a sold-out Turton Road.
Yes, this will lift my ailing spirit.
I sure hope so, buddy.
Yeah, this will be good. I'm really pumped for this. So, Blues looked awesome in game 1. Totally exceeded my expectations, both in the way they played and just how sharp they looked. We sort of mentioned that we had some concerns about the Blues coming in maybe a little bit underdone like they did in game 1 last year. But they had an extended training camp where the squad was training together twice a week for 6 or 7 weeks or whatever. And a few of their key players had been playing in the Brisbane Premiership as well. And you could really, really tell with how sharp they were, So, and I honestly, I think Queensland was sort of caught on the hop a little bit. But now everyone's had a bit more time to sort of settle in and all that sort of deal. They're breaking the Women's Origin attendance record for the 5th time in a row. It'll be over 30,000 up there. Newcastle is mad for footy, and especially mad for Origin footy. I reckon it's going to go off.
I'm filthy I'm not coming up. What if they just kept breaking the attendance record for every Women's Origin game going forward? Just keeps getting higher.
Well, I don't know if they can because Game 3 is in Townsville, and it could be a dead rubber.
Damn.
and I think it will be a dead rubber.
Yeah, I'm tipping
I
the
think
Blues for sure. But yeah, it's so no changes for the Blues. A couple for the Maroons. They've got Keely Joseph back in on the bench, and they're starting Lauren Brown at hooker. Interesting.
No, they're starting her in the centres, aren't they?
No. I've got it right.
Have they changed it?
They've got her at hooker.
Oh wow, yeah. So this only came through last night, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so Brown at hooker.
And Emanita Parker's into the starting team.
I like those changes. I like those changes for them. I want Lauren Brown on the ball as much as possible. I really liked what she was doing at halfback for the Titans last year, and I think she's a really capable operator. And I thought the Queensland did quite well in game one once Destiny Brill came off and they sort of got Emma Manzelman in this. So I think speed around the ruck will be really, really important. I think Brown will provide that.
They've got both Brill and Manzelman on the bench now, so I wonder how that's going to work.
Brill can play lock as well. I think that's what she'll come on and do because Brigginshaw's moved to the halves. I don't love that move for Queensland. I think at this level, Brigginshaw, I don't know if she's quite got the pace to play in the halves anymore, but I imagine that's a reaction to the way they kind of got knocked around in the middle of the field by the Blues. You know, Olivia Kernick came on and started at lock. I always knew her as an edge forward. She hadn't really played lock until the Brisbane Premiership earlier this year, but she was fantastic. She would have been my pick for man of the match. I thought she mixed her passing and her running really, really well, and that was something that kept going when Keely Davis came on, and it just sort of really opened things up for the Blues. It allowed them to get their best players into one-on-one matchups, and they could use their athleticism to overpower.
They've got a lot of firepower in the middle coming off the bench in Kernick, Kemp and Togatuki. So they've got a lot of good, strong ball runners that they can bring on, in addition to their starting pack, which is obviously awesome as well. So good problem to have. I
just don't know if Queensland are going to be able to compete with that athleticism that they've got in the middle of the field. You know, I'm expecting a better effort from Queensland. I'm really glad that Paulides playing in the centres, not on the wing. I think she is a really natural centre, and I think early ball for her could be a really good way for Queensland to trouble the Blues. But I don't know. I feel like the Blues really landed on something up at Suncorp last month.
It's kind of funny. I know it's reductive to just say like they should try to get their best player the ball as much as possible. But I do feel like when they were near the goal line last week, the one time they got Tamika Upton the ball in a good position, she scored a try. And I just felt like they just weren't doing that enough. So I'd like to see them do that a little bit more in the chances they get. But beyond that,
you would like to see the best player touch the ball.
I would like, because it sounds dumb, right?
It does sound dumb.
It sounds so dumb.
It does sound dumb. But if it was easy, it would happen all the time.
Exactly.
That's what we always say.
So I'd just like to see like them just feed her the ball as much as they can in the red zone, because that's basically what the Knights do. She scores a boatload of tries. So, it'd be interesting to see what happens. Upton against the Knights faithful. What an emotional double-edged sword for those fans.
Oh, I think that their sword will only have one edge. I don't think there's any doubles in this one. I think Newcastle love you if you're Newcastle or if you're New South Wales, and if you're not that, then.
Well, how do they treat Robbie O'Davis?
I'm not sure. Wasn't in the Hunter a lot in the early 2000s.
Please find out for me.
Yeah, so I'm taking the Blues. I'm expecting another big performance in the middle. If Koenig starts, I think she could win Player of the Match.
Yeah.
But I think Queensland have got to try and make it as open a game of footy as possible. Try and take away the impact of that athletic Blues forward pack and all that. And I just don't know if they're gonna quite be able to do that. I feel like the Blues have really raised where their floor is. You know, after a couple of series where they just took a while to get going, they've hit the ground running here, and that's made a big difference.
New South Wales 20, Queensland 12. I'll go Kezi man of the match. Play the match.
I'll go New South Wales 22, Queensland 14, and let's say Koenig starts and wins man of the match.
All right, I like that. All right, moving on. We got
Player of the match. God.
Yes. Yeah, that's all right. So we're not doing What About the Split this week. Again, we've got one more week before Name Pending Studio becomes Something Studio. So one more week to get your suggestions in. We've had so many good ones so far. We won't reveal the ones that are leading the charge right now.
Is this going to be a Washington football team situation where after a season people are like, I actually like that they're called the football team?
Some people have already got in touch and said, I like Name Pending
Studios.
Yeah, which it's growing on me. But
me too a little bit.
You know, if you don't like it, come up with a name so good that I can't turn it down.
That's right.
Make us an offer we can't refuse.
That's right. You've got to do something irresistible.
Yeah. All right. Tell you what was too irresistible for me, Nick. The lure of the gong. Heading down on Friday to watch the Dragons play the Tigers.
You excited?
No.
Talk me through it. What about the lure of the gong? Could you not turn away from?
Well, Eddie said, "Do you want to come down?" And then there's an emo night on afterwards, and I was like, "Sure."
Going to be a lot. How many people do you think are going to Dragons Tigers and then also going to the emo night?
At least 3, at least 4.
Like, are we expecting a lot of emotions at Wynn Stadium?
Who's the most emo NRL player?
The most emo NRL player.
Is it Jackson Hastings?
I don't know, because emo's a look as well. It's not just a vibe.
He's got the look. Reece Walsh could pass as an emo kid. I think.
He could.
Yeah.
Hines?
Yeah.
You're the emo expert, not me. This is not my world.
Yeah, personality-wise, probably Jacko, but like look-wise, I think Walsh could do a good emo kid, I reckon. Anyway, we don't know at time of recording whether Ben Hunt's going to play, whether Jaden Sewer's going to play. We think they might.
I'm planting the flag. I think Hunt plays. Okay. I think Lomax doesn't, and I think Sewer's a maybe.
Okay.
I think with Sewer it'll depend on how he pulls up on game day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Hunt's definitely in. Lomax did a heap of work on Wednesday. I think he had over 20 carries.
Yeah.
I imagine he would have been pretty knocked around. So I think he'll sit down, but I think Hunt's in, and that's enough to sway me towards Saints.
Yes.
I thought Saints kind of frustrate me because every few weeks they'll have a performance like they did against Penrith where they play super tough and they're really committed and really rugged and just do really, really well and look like they're becoming a Shane Flanagan team. And then I'll be like, oh, yeah, this is looking pretty good. And then I'll tip them against the Roosters and they'll concede 60.
Yeah.
So, but the Tigers are not the Roosters. Jot that one down.
Slow down.
They're really struggling to find their way. At the minute, maybe the bye will have freshened them up. But scoring points has still been really difficult for them for a good couple of weeks now. We've talked about it a lot. They're in the midst of a long losing streak. They're not playing with a lot of confidence. I worry about them going out there with an edge of Alex Seyfarth, Charlie Staines, and Alex Lobb. I like Alex Lobb, tall drink of water.
I love that he's tall and his name's Lobb.
Yeah, like they could do with a bit more size in their backfield. So I think he'll go well, but it is only his second game. He got a debut the other week because of the 18th man stuff. So I think Saints will be able to go after that pretty well, especially if Hunt's there. So I like Saints for this one. Yeah,
not only do I like him, Nick, I'm going down there and I've got to make it worth my while. I've got to keep it entertaining for myself. And that's why...
Here's Taylor rolling the ball end on end. He's after it. He might have got it down. He thinks he did. Oh!
Coltrane Cup.
Got to let Bertrand wet his beak.
That's right. I'm going to Coltrane the St. George Illawarra Dragons.
How are you feeling about your Coltrane stuff?
Yeah, look, so here's the thing. I went 0 for 5 in tips last week, so it doesn't matter. I couldn't have won. Like, it didn't matter who I Coltraned, I would have lost. And the other part is, because the Chooks lost, we had carnage. We had 80% losers last week in the Coltrane. So I don't, like, it sucks that the winning streak is over, but in terms of, like, losing, like, ceding ground back to the chasing pack, I didn't lose any.
Okay, I can totally accept that, but
it sucks that the streak's over.
Also, I think you wanted the streak more than you wanted the win.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, it sucks that the streak's over, but RCB, who was tied with me, whose streak also ended, also took the Knights, crazily. He didn't have to. He could have taken the Roosters at that time. I was like, you idiot, you should have taken the Roosters. That didn't age well. But yeah, so the streak's over. I'm sorry to everyone that wanted to see me go 27-0. I've let you down.
How many people wanted that?
Charlie?
Yeah.
Nan?
Yep.
Are
either of them listeners?
Butsy?
Butsy didn't want it.
Yeah,
no,
we
Butsy didn't. No way.
Allies, yeah.
After Down and Dirty Bungard Butts fell apart.
Mate, Bungard Butts
it turned into a civil war.
No, come on. Yeah, the big three people in my life. My wife, Nan, and Butsy. But
do the sign of the cross while you say their names, bro.
But yeah, it sucks that I can't go 27-0, but hoping to get back in the winner's circle this week. I thought about Coltrane in the same game as you, which we'll get to later, but yeah, I'm going to be at this game and haven't hit the Dragons yet. Seems like a good spot to do it. I think that Hunt plays, so that's enough for me. All right, moving on. 3 o'clock Saturday. The Gold Coast Titans hosting the South Sydney Rabbitohs.
I am as intrigued by this game as you possibly can be for a game between 14 and 17.
It took 14 rounds, Nick. It took 14 rounds for me to get what I wanted, and that's Jack White and Cody Walker in the halves together.
How are you feeling about it? Talk me through it.
I feel great.
Why do you think it's going to work?
Because they're our two most talented playmakers, and they have been since preseason, which was my whole argument for having them both there. Now, Latrell Mitchell who for the last couple of weeks I was kind of like, man, I'm happy to see J.R. Gray take that spot and put him in the centres or put him at 5'8" or whatever. But I thought he was fantastic against Parramatta. And if he can just play like that every week, then sweet, we're fine.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's all right. That's
easy.
easy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
Ring him up. Let him know.
I'm feeling as good about, I mean, backline-wise, if Campbell Graham was there instead of Richie Kenner, I'd be feeling great about it. But, they got White and Walker and Trell all together, which in the spine, which hasn't happened this year, obviously. So they're their three most talented players. I'm excited to see them mesh together. AJ's still there, but he's been playing well, I think, since he came back from injury. And the forward pack played pretty well against Parramatta, I thought. And that's aging better with how well Parramatta played last week. And I actually don't mind the look of the starting forward pack this week. Davey Moale's starting to figure some things out, I think. Sean Kempy's been better since his recall from New South Wales Cup. And Jair Akio and Kolomatangi both played super well against Parramatta last week. And I think it's a pretty solid bench too, with Talis Duncan, Saliva Vili and Tom Burgess all coming on. So I don't think it's going to be an easy game. I think the Titans have been massively improved in recent weeks. I think that especially like Fafita's going to be playing with a massive chip in his shoulder after missing Origin selection, I think, and no shocks there. And Souths have been horrendous defensively for all the time. I think there will be times in this game where Fafita does some awesome stuff, and I just have to deal with it. But I think that there is a chance that Souths can win this game. I really do.
Well, I'm kind of with you. I'm kind of seeing this as an either way bet. The Titans had that really great win over the Broncos 2 weeks ago. It felt like a bit of a coming of age for Keanu Kinney at fullback. I was really impressed with him. Kieran Foran's back in the halves. They've done quite well without him in the last couple of weeks, but he's pretty clearly the best half that they've got. You talk about the South's backline, the centres, Richie Kennar and Tane Milne. I think the Titans will be able to get at them a fair bit. Brian Kelly's been having a great season. Phil the Power Sammy is a real athlete too. They're going to be swinging it down that left edge a lot with Fafita. And while the forward pack is probably short of a couple of names, is Tino still out? Can we get confirmation on that?
I can confirm that Tino is still out.
Tino's still out. Fodawaker might play. Don't know.
Rest up, Mo.
Rest up, Big Mo. But they've kind of been able to get by on a lot of less high-profile players in the middle of the field. And they've really found something in these last few weeks. I think since their first win of the season, I don't think they've had a loss by more than 6 points. I don't have that in my notes. I should have written that down because it's a great stat if true. But they've been competitive in every single game that they've played.
Well, even the week before the win was that Raiders game, which they should have won. So they've definitely turned the corner massively.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a bucket of points in this game.
I do too. I think it'll be a very fun, breezy Saturday.
Yeah, I was going to go to Henson on Saturday, but I got to watch this game. So
well, I might do both. I might sit on the Henson Hill checking out the KO. We live in the future, brother. I hate technology. There's no laws against it. I hate technology except the technology that lets me watch football.
What if Benta Bojovic is there and calls you a nerd for being on your laptop?
Well, he's already done it. He can't kill me twice.
I'm really keen for this one. I think win or lose will be a fun game.
Yeah,
but I'll tip South.
I'm going to take the Titans. I'm not as enamoured with the White and Walker halves combo as you are. I think it kind of takes away from Walker's great strength, which is more of his playmaking in conjunction with a more traditional halfback. And while Jack White and playing 5'8" has given me some of the great moments of my life, it's also given me some of the worst. And there's just no way to know what to expect until it starts happening. So I have to go. I can't believe I'm saying this. I have to go with the steadier proposition, which is the Gold Coast Titans.
What an outrageous sentence.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
All right. 5:30 game, Cowboys, Warriors. And this game is probably the hardest to pick because
it's totally contingent.
Like there's honestly almost no
point
point doing a preview on this because we have no idea what the Cowboys team is going to do. If all those Origin guys play, they're a very good chance of winning this game. If they don't, I think Warriors win pretty easily.
Well, I guess if you're a Cowboys fan, the hope would be that Origin could kickstart your season the way it did last year for a little while. Remember they had that really good run post-Origin and it looked like they were going to get into the finals, but then everything else ended up going to shit a little bit. But that is the circuit breaker that this side needs, because if you look at all those blokes that played on Wednesday night, I think apart from Holmes, all of them played quite well, and they just haven't been able to translate that to club level as much this year. Maybe winning the game like that is the thing that can give all their Queensland players the sort of confidence boost that they need. And you compare that to the Warriors, who are still a little bit undermanned, but are coming off 2 great wins. two really, really tough wins.
Their ins list for this week is outrageous.
It's awesome. We'll read it aloud.
Their ins list for this week: Adam Fanua-Blake, Charles Zuka-Klukstad, Kurt Capewell, Rocco Berry, Tan Tuapiki, Tohu Harris, Wade Egan.
Yeah. And Tuapiki's not even playing.
No, he's just on the extended bench.
They've all of a sudden gone from, dragging blokes off the bus from South Auckland to run out there. To now they're really getting a lot of their stuff back. And I wonder if sort of the spirit and the intensity that they found in that Panthers win and that Dolphins win, maybe that can set them up for a bit of a push towards the 8 as well. So I don't know. It'll totally be contingent on who backs up from the Cows.
Yep, I agree.
But just because that's such an unknown, and I'm going to take the Warriors too, because that spirit that they've played with, I feel like that's going to be replicable. I think they're still going to have that for a couple of weeks to come. So yeah, I'm Kia ora for the far now.
Absolutely. Okay, and then 7:30, Brisbane, Cronulla. Reece Walsh will not be featuring in this game.
No, but I think Tristan Saylor might be playing. He's on an extended bench for them, and he'd be a very
useful to have this week.
Good inclusion. Yeah.
Yeah. So, assuming they get him in, that's a pretty able replacement. Looks as though the rest of those Origin guys are going to back up, I think. So I'm just going through that now. So Carrigan is named and captain. Colbo's named. So
we don't know. We don't know. I feel quite sure that McInnes will back up.
Yeah, I think definitely.
I think Haas might, but I think there's a chance he could come off the bench.
And the Sharks have not named Nico.
Yeah, they didn't name him, so he's out. That I understand why they would do that, but also now I feel like the best thing for Hines after Wednesday night would be to get back on the field as soon as possible.
If they'd known Wednesday was going to go the way it did, I don't think they would have done it.
I don't think so either.
It's unfortunate, so he's not playing, and they've lost Steve Wilton to, is it a hip injury or something?
Yeah, it's something like that, and he's it. But really Talakai's a capable replacement, but Wilton's had a really fine season. This is an interesting one because I'm not as worried about who actually runs out there for either team. I just want both teams to sort of get back to what works for them. Like Cronulla had that really bad loss to Penrith, and then a loss to Parramatta that wasn't as strong either. And Brisbane have I know they haven't had their best team on the field for a while, but I think that Titans loss showed up a few things that had become a little bit of an issue. So I just want to see both teams play closer to who they really are. Yep. That great attacking philosophy and that athleticism and that hunger that Brisbane had, I want that to come to the fore. I want the Sharks to try and prove to themselves that these last 2 weeks are aberrations, and they can get back on the job and they can right the ship a little bit, And to that end, the result of this game isn't as important to me. Like if Cronulla win, I'm not going to say Brisbane are dead. If Brisbane win, I'm not going to say Cronulla are dead. This one is more about process. I want to see both teams go through their process and show me that they are going on the right path, and that when they do get all their guys back, whenever that's going to be, that they can snap into gear and become the teams that they at times look like they could be.
I'm hoping the Sharks can give a good account of themselves. I'm tipping Brisbane, but...
Yeah, I'm tipping Brisbane as well.
Just keep it close, boys. Okay, 2:00 Sunday, Melbourne, Newcastle. The David Armstrong era looks like it could be over.
What a time it was. May 2024 to late May 2024.
Well, so apparently Fletcher Sharp's the guy that plays fullback in the reserve grade team anyway.
Yes, so I think Sharp was in line to play fullback when Ponga went down, and he just had an untimely injury. Armstrong...
It's a very short leash for Armstrong. He had some very good games, then one bad one, and he's out.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know if there's anywhere else they could fit him into the side. I don't know if he's played wing or centre in reserve grade or anything like that. But yeah, going with another debutant, it's always fun to see how he goes. The Knights, I think, have a real point to prove after that loss to Canterbury. I think there would have been a lot of soul searching in the time since, and I think some of Adam O'Brien's comments after the game showed an insight into the way that they're thinking at the minute. I think it really would have stung him. I think he would have really pressed in that message over the last week or so that, like, you guys aren't as good as you thought, as you might have all thought. And the only way that you can get back there is sort of by working your way through it. And that 4-game winning streak was sort of built on a lot of those qualities.
Just
and
grit.
Then they kind of vanished against Canterbury. So I'm expecting the Knights to sort of bounce back and play with a little bit more of that grit. I just don't know if that'll be enough against the Storm. I think Harry Grant will play. I thought he had a bit of a tough one on Wednesday night, a couple of easy drops, and that sort of frantic quality that I was talking about that Queensland played with. I thought Grant sort of had that more than anyone else, so I think he'll go out there with a big point to prove. Newcastle have got a really bad record down in Melbourne. It's been a really tough place for them to play. And I only realised this this morning. I think Coates and Grant are Melbourne's only 2 Origin players. It's been a long time since they've only had 2 guys that have been backing up, and 2 guys who I think, assuming they didn't cop a knock last night, I think they'll both be.
Well, they used to have more than that just in the spine.
Yeah, 100. Yeah. So Hughes is there. That'll be I think Hughes will hold the result in his hands a fair bit. I'm excited to see Suaali'i always. But I do like this one for the Storm, and I'm going to give him the old kiss of death as well.
Here's Taylor rolling the ball end on end. He's after it. He might have got it down. He thinks he did. Oh!
Cold Train Cup.
Yeah, thanks for doing the Roosters last week. Appreciate that.
Man, that was for all of you. That was for everyone out there, man.
Very
that
nice
was
of you. A gift from the new studio.
What can I say? What
nice.
can I say? You know,
Yeah.
I'm a generous man.
Yeah, I want Newcastle to bounce back. Look good, look decent, but I'm tipping Melbourne as well.
Yeah, it just looks a bit too difficult, doesn't it?
Yes, and the other game on Sunday, 4:05 p.m. Penrith hosting Manly. Again, we will see what happens, but we assume Cherry's going to play. Olaquatu didn't play that many minutes last night, so neither did Jake, so you assume they'll both play. And Penrith, Luai's named. Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with the team. Martin's named as well. I mean, he's one guy that I think deserves a rest. Don't think he'll want one, though. It's
Again, this is an interesting one to me. I haven't forgotten that game earlier in the season when Manly beat Penrith up
with
at
the
Rookie.
worst bunker call of all time.
It was, but they won that game, and Penrith are probably looking for a bounce back after the loss to the Dragons. I know they had a lot of blokes out, but they don't sort of accept that as an excuse. So they'll be fired up for this one. Did Manly turn a corner in getting that win over Melbourne? Their first win without Tom Trbojevic, and a win that sort of seemed to give them a lot of confidence. I'm not sure. I am pretty. Dylan Edwards got named on an extended bench.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure he's not going to play.
I would think so.
I would be very, very surprised if he did. So we're in with Dane Laurie at the back again. I think just because of what happened to Penrith last week, they respond very well to losses. I think they'll come into this one angry and mean and pissed off.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to knock Manly around as best they can, and I think they're going to be able to do that.
If you think that To'o, Yo, Luai, and Martin are all going to play, I don't think Edwards will. I think all those guys might back up, and then they get. I think Luke Garner's back as well. So I don't know if he's named. He's named on the interchange bench. So there's quite a few guys coming back in for them from that team that lost to Dragons last week, and yeah, I think that's enough to swing me as well.
I think so. I think when Penrith play close to their best, it's just a bad stylistic matchup for Manly. I think because Penrith's slide defence is so good, it's among the best in the competition. I think if you're going to beat Penrith, you've really got to punch around the middle of the field as best you can. I just don't know if Manly are going to quite have the personnel to sort of attack them in that way. So while I'm expecting a renewed effort from Manly, like I'm not expecting Penrith to go out there and do what they did to Cronulla or anything like that, but I am expecting Penrith to go a bit ruthless.
I will say, like, if there is if Manly can get their forward pack kind of rolling, they've got Toff Sipley back as well, so they bring him and Nathan Brown off the bench. Jake's very fresh, and they've got obviously Aloye and Paseka starting. But that's probably, if they're going to win this game, their path to victory, right? Is sort of trying to hold that middle battle against Penrith, which is no mean feat, even with all those guys we just named, and then trying to get some points off the back of it. It just seems like a really tough assignment.
It does. I would actually think their path to victory is probably through Cherry Evans more than anything else. I think if he can sort of control things with his kicking game, which he might have the chance to do, who knows? But like, Laurie's in for Edwards. I'd be very surprised if To'o plays, because again, he got through a lot of work on Wednesday night. He really does knock himself around. So all of a sudden, you're down to one of your regular back three, so maybe you can catch someone out of position or whatever. But if they can win, I think it'll be on the back of something like that.
And last game, a Monday treat. The
Bulldogs, love a Monday treat.
The Bulldogs and the Eels. And again, this I think is a genuine Origin selection trial.
I love it. I think this game's going to be sick.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one.
I'm hoping the rain holds off a little bit so we get a big crowd out there. Canterbury's been going so good these last 2 weeks, like two. Not just wins, but very sort of impressive, dare I say, decadent wins, you know. And Parramatta, I know they've only just bounced back to life with Gutherson and Moses getting back, but I think that's been enough to get all their fans sort of dreaming again, you know. And Gutherson gave them so much with his effort and his energy against Cronulla. Moses gave them so much organisation and class and playmaking and all that. And I don't know, it's exciting. I think Crichton will back up for Canterbury. I imagine Burton will. You know, so.
Strenuous.
Strong, mate. You know, he was looking very limber there on the bench, and I think Hopgood will back up as well. So I think we're getting both teams with the best team they can put on the field right now.
Unfortunately, no Bailey Simons for the rest of the season for Parramatta.
Well, and Kikau and Addo-Carr out for Canterbury is a loss as well. But I think this will be a really, really intriguing one. A fascinating clash of styles because Canterbury do so well when they're able to play a little bit wider, sort of stay out of that battle in the middle of the field. But if Para can sort of drag them in and direct a lot of play towards that centre third and get a lot out of Campbell Gillard and Polo and Hopgood and Gutherson up the middle as well, honestly, that could sort of put it towards them. So it's an interesting clash of styles.
We talked about how Mitchell Moses can put himself right in the origin selection frame with a big game here. And there probably will be a change in the halves. Could it be Matt Burton for game 2? Especially if he plays well here.
What? So we go Burton 5'8", and then Hines or Moses at halfback. I guess it's possible, but I think because of Burton's versatility might actually kill him in that regard. Because he can play centre, he can play in those. I think he could play back row as well if he absolutely had to. So all of a sudden, if he plays great and then you put him in at 5'8", then who becomes a utility back? Like, does it become Jack Whiten, who's had, I know people love him at Origin level, but he hasn't really had a good season at all. So I think because you can have two of them in the team, so Burton and then whoever's in the halves partnering either Moses or Hines or Luai or whatever. Because you can have two of them, you may as well have two.
So you think Burton's in the team, but it'll be in the 14?
I think Burton's in the team on the bench.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm excited to see how he goes in this one because I feel like in that game against the Dragons, he sort of bounced back really well after the loss to the Raiders 2 weeks before. He was good against the Tigers in the intermittent game as well. So I'm excited to see him continue to progress and develop because I think he's done that quite well this year. I think he's found a really good mix of doing 5'8" stuff and then just doing general footballer stuff, like supporting through the middle really well, getting the ball a couple of passes wide and using his running game. And that'll be a really big key for the Bulldogs in this one because without Kikau and without Addo-Carr, they're going to need their strike weapons to be at a real premium. So they're going to need big stuff from Burton. They're going to need big stuff from Crichton. But I think they can provide it. I think Canterbury are going to be able to dictate terms in this one and play. I think the game's going to sort of go the way they want it to go in terms of the way it's played. So yeah, I'm leaning Canterbury.
Yeah, I'm going to tip Doggies as well. I think this could be a ding-dong affair though.
Love a ding-dong battle. A blood and thunder back and forth.
This could be a pretty good round of footy, I reckon.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Like I think maybe we're being a bit optimistic because like so often during the Origin period, the NRL just sort of is quite bad. But let's hope it's not the case this week.
I always hope it's not bad. That's my dream is that it's not bad.
A world with no bad footy.
I know.
What a dream.
I know.
Okay, before we get out of here, a quick shout out to people in the top 2 tiers on our Patreon subscription service. If you'd like to support us, go to patreon.com/NRL Rookies. You get a third show every week, access to our Discord server, merch discounts, and plenty more. So, thank you to a perverted female listener. Sup, Dave. It's not his go. I'm not high, I just have Terrell May eyes. Stu, a bloke hurting in the shed, a nightmare on Caxton Street, are all Origin Games officials of the genus Pelicanus. Broncos legend Adam Reynolds, Bruce the Piting Pom, Butsy, Jivak Snuffleupagus, Dan Cullinane, David, an anonymous backer, Ed Burton, Gavin, Hat King, Josh Papali, Hula Pop Ya, here we are, Jason, Joel Wrigley, John, Joseph Suaali'i gets 4 weeks suspension, has to play union next year, judiciary rules, Joseph Alana Suaali'i, Jesus. Josh Brandon, Gerbo's invaluable leadership, Kicks South out of the comp, Kicks South out of the comp, Lachlan Hancock, Luke Charles Midmore, Mads, Taylor's version, Matthew Duggan, Morgan Watkins, my ding ding dong is hard and I'm sad, never trendy. Oh, those golden grams. Oh, those golden grams. Crispy, crunchy graham cereal, brand new breakfast treat. Pasami Army, Pomac 78, Push It Up, Nanley, Reece Brown, reigning Flip Cup champion Dave Fafita, Roxanne Clark, See you in Vegas, Tide, The Black Vegetable, TB, The Brisbane Sniper, There's No Escape, I can't wait, I'm not doing the toxic thing again, you're dangerous, I'm loving it. Thor, Tim the Toolman says, mind your business, Wilson. Walter Face, Brisbane Chainsaw Massacre 3 was Zerny Zalesniak and Westside Podcast, South for Cowards in 1909. Some say they still are. Thank you for your support. To everyone in the lower tiers and everyone who does listens, thank you as well.
That's him, the Toolman grind every time, dude.
Every time. I played it to my wife also, and then also the discussion of us discussing how someone pays me money to make that noise every week, and she laughed for like 10 minutes. It was great. So yeah, all right. Mate, hope your car doesn't get submerged in water on the way out to Newcastle.
I also hope that.
Because we thought someone was running a tap next door in the name pending studio, but it turns out it's just the biblical rains are here.
It's just a hurricane, yeah. And my aqua car is at the mechanics, so I've got to drive my regular car.
I should get one of those duck boats they have in Boston.
100%.
Speaking of which, are you excited that we get to be basketball fans for 2 weeks of the year again?
I'm locked in.
I need you to be ready.
I'm so locked in, dude.
Whatever happens. Got my Celtics shirt that we bought last year. I'm ready to go.
Very exciting
Very
stuff.
keen. How you feeling about that? Just real quick.
Good. I think Porzingis is meant to be back for game 1. He'll be a big inclusion.
Yep.
And I think while you could make the case the Mavericks have the 2 best players in the series with Luka and Kyrie, I think over the course of 7 games, I think the better team will end up doing it. I think the Celtics are so well drilled and so consistent, sort of from all the way down the bench. I think as long as they can weather a couple of Luka Doncic storms, which is easier said than done. Yeah, Luka's crazy. I think they'll be able to get it done.
I'll go Celtics in 5.
I'll go season 6.
All right. And with that, we're out of here. Say goodbye, Campo.
Goodbye, Bertrand.
It's goodbye from me.